Hey guys, this week on Crew Talk, we want to discuss whether or not CrossFit is still the gold standard for developing functional fitness. And so in order to explore that question, we thought the best way would be to understand what CrossFit is, and who better to ask than our very own Greg Kerschbaum, level 4 coach, CrossFit level 1 and level 2 seminar staff member. Greg, if you could kind of walk us through what is CrossFit.
Yeah, so CrossFit training methodology is based around constantly varied functional movements executed at high intensity. So really a jumble of words if you don't know what any of those things mean yet, but functional movements that are generally full body in nature, things that relate to real life, although not everything we do in the gym is something we do in real life. But also high power output movements. We really lean on the fact that functional movements are going to be powerful. They're going to move a large load a long distance quickly, and we can measure that. We can put a number to that to make it something objective. Intensity relates to, again, our power output. If we're more intense in a workout, we're driving more power output, we're getting more reps, we're getting more work done. Maybe that's a run we're going faster on. That's going to put more intensity in there. And we know that intensity starts to drive more results. The more output that we can put out, the better the results are going to get in the long term. And variance is this concept that we want to specifically target a large range of things so that we get the broadest, most general physical capacity that we can. We're not a methodology that wants to pigeonhole and just being good at one thing. We want to expand to be good at as many things as we can. And CrossFit does a really nice job of packaging that all together into constantly varied workouts, short and intense, and gets the results that you can.
Yeah. So CrossFit is something that prepares you to do day-to-day life stuff. Okay. I mean, ultimately, I mean, obviously, some people go to the games.
Yeah.
Okay. But the average folks like us, okay, don't do that. We're training ourselves for day-to-day life so that you have the ability to go out and hike or play with your kids or play intramural sports or whatever it is that you want to do. You have the ability to do that, and that's kind of the idea with the functional movements, correct? I mean, it's not intended to have like gigantic, do a lot of curls so I get really big arms, or try to cut my chest so that it looks perfect.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, most things we do in life and in sport, let's say they're like very few things in the real world are single joint movements that we do. Like when you pick something up, you're doing a deadlift, you're using the knees, the hips, the back, lots of musculature around that. When you play sports, when you throwing is not just your arms, it's your core, it's your shoulders, it's your hips, all this stuff happening. CrossFit, the movements that we do that are full body, make us work a lot of those same coordinated patterns such that when I can do those things in the gym, it makes it easier to now express those things in whatever sport or activity I'm trying to do out there.
Mm-hmm. And I always like Byron Denny. He talks a lot about trying to put a bag of salt into your water softener, and it's a sumo deadlift high pull that you have to do in order to pull that up.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't practice that movement. I think that's one of the most functional movements that we do. You take an odd object, your hands are inside your feet, and you hoist it up on something else. I mean, like that could be the back of a truck bed, that could be onto a counter. I think we very rarely do the squat clean in real life. We more regularly do the sumo deadlift high pull.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So now constantly varied movements. For that, we're talking about lifting, running, gymnastics, long duration, short duration. Talk us through what's the idea behind that?
Yeah, and so I like to think of it as put yourself in a bubble of the things that you like to do. And so maybe before I did CrossFit, my bubble was I played college tennis, and so I was good at like short, intense bursts of like running. And I didn't move a lot of weight, so I couldn't lift heavy stuff. If you asked me to go really long, at one effort, like run like a whole mile or 2 miles at a time, like I'd break down. And then flexibility wise, if you asked me to do something that like an overhead squat, like I couldn't maneuver my body. So when I started doing CrossFit, I had this bubble, and the workouts started to be like outside of my bubble. And every time it was outside my bubble, I failed miserably. And it was like, oh gosh, I'm terrible at this. This is really hard. And it wasn't the failing that was like the goal, but when I started to be exposed to different things, my bubble started to grow. And I really want to make that bubble as big as I can so that, hey, whatever life throws at me, whether that requires me to go long and heavy, whether that requires me to sprint real fast and hard, whether that makes me lift a heavy object, I'm able to be capable in those areas, and my training needs to reflect that. So we constantly vary. That gets confused with random sometimes. Mm-hmm. Constantly varied means that I'm specifically targeting things from all these different areas so that over time I get exposed to more and more, and I'm not getting stuck in like a routine of always doing the same things.
Yeah. And then high intensity, you talk about that as well. And I think that isn't well understood amongst even a lot of CrossFitters.
Right.
What does high intensity really mean?
So, I mean, if you think of high intensity, ultimately it's related to increasing your power output. In power output, there's variables, simple math, force times distance divided by time. If I can increase the load I'm lifting, if I can decrease the time it takes to complete a task, if I can increase the distance that I can travel over a certain time, any one of those things, I'm going to be more powerful, which ultimately is the goal for increasing intensity. Now, it says high intensity. I think where that gets confused is people think, oh, I need maximal intensity at all costs. Well, there's two things related to that. One is technique is going to allow you to truly have high intensity, because if you have poor technique, you're really just going to suffer as far as injury, or you're going to plateau. Mm-hmm. But also, you don't need to just bang your head into the wall every day, because we talk about a concept of relative intensity. Depending on how you're feeling on any given day, depending on where you're at mentally in that given day, you may need to pull the intensity back. As long as you're working hard for yourself on any given day and you're continuing to push yourself for where your own capacity is from where you are on that day, it's okay if every day doesn't feel like you're writhing on the ground, like bacon sizzle and like sweating all over the place. Some days we actually need almost like active recovery to move and be able to then push the gas pedal on days we feel really good.
Yeah. I always think of like with lifting, we'll have a day where maybe you set like a 1 rep max deadlift. And so that day maybe you hit 315 or something like that. It doesn't mean that from this day forth for the rest of time that you're always going to be able to deadlift 315 at any given moment.
I think a great example of, we call it like your threshold. For people's threshold looked really different the day before Murph than the day after Murph. That's a great example. Like you're not going to come in the day after doing really hard workout and be like, oh, I just need to crush myself again. That's probably a good day for, let me just move around and let my body recover a little bit. It's more than okay if you throw in days like that, because again, high intensity doesn't mean maximal. I'll go 100%. It also depends on the effort. I think it's silly to think like you wouldn't go into a 5K run sprinting at your 100 meter dash pace. It's relative to that effort. You're going to run at a pace that you can stay consistent. Now, Can I shave a minute or two off that 5K pace? Maybe, and that's gonna increase my fitness over time.
Mm-hmm. CrossFit has 9 foundational movements identified. What is kind of the purpose of that, and what does that really say about the methodology of CrossFit? The fact that they've identified those movements.
Well, so when we teach at the Level 1 seminar, we lay in these 9 foundational movements in 3 series. We have the air squat, the front squat, and the overhead squat. We have the shoulder press, the push press, and the push jerk. We have the deadlift, the sumo deadlift high pull, and the medicine ball clean. So we lay those in kind of 3 different series of movements. And we like those 9 because they give us a broad base of athletic capacity. They're going to challenge us in different ranges of motion. They're going to challenge us in different flexibilities. And what's cool about those 9 is that they're broad enough that if I can teach you those 9, it's going to be really easy for me to lay in other things. So, for example, if I teach you a front squat and then a push press, you're going to be able to do a thruster or a wall ball without even any other thought. Mm-hmm. If I teach you the overhead squat and then you've learned a med ball clean, well, you're probably only a couple cues away from doing a snatch. So a lot of the things that we can learn from those movements are going to translate well to other things. It's not because those are the most important. It's just that teaching those give us a broad base of kind of that athletic capacity to build a lot of other things from.
Now, each of those movements have points of performance identified. What's the purpose of that?
So points of performance are going to allow us to perform the movement safely. They're going to teach us what are the ways that are going to either increase performance or increase the safety of the movement. So like, for example, when we do a squat or when we do most of the movements, we want to maintain a solid back position to keep the spines healthy. We want to keep our heels down because we get more power out of the hamstrings and the glutes when our heels are on the floor. We want to get all the way below parallel because life demands flexibility in our joints for healthy long-term capacity. We want to drive our knees out so that the knee stays in a healthy position. So like whenever we express these points of performance, we think of them as like what's going to put us in the best position to be safe, to be powerful, and to be able to do this long term.
Yeah. And those standards are the standards across the board in CrossFit. If you go to a box in Colorado or if you go to a box in Georgia, it's going to be the same standards.
Yeah, 100%. Like we make consistency there. Now, a lot of that stuff though, let's think range of motion wise. We give kind of a minimum standard of we want to take your hips down below the height of your knee. There's a large flexibility piece in there of there's going to be athletes who can go all the way where they put their butt onto their heels and they're in great position. And there's going to be some people who really struggle to get there, and we can scale that along the way. And scaling just means that we can give a target for where you're at today, knowing that we may, over time, the goal would be that we're going to push you further along towards the end goal of increasing your capacity and either the weight you can move or the flexibility you can get into.
You see, I love that because a lot of times we have athletes that come in and they say, well, I can't move my arms back to that position or I can't get my hips to go that low. But the reality is, yes, you can work towards that and improve as much as possible.
And there's so many examples of people, I mean, myself included, and I imagine you have the same examples of there's so many things I said I can't do that I've been able to overcome. And so now, like, and I tell my kids all the time, we don't say I can't, we say I can't yet. That word yet is the key there because there's very few things that if you truly put your mind to it, and let's say you spent 5 years training and just building slowly over time, there's very few things that you really can't achieve.
Yeah. So another thing that I think makes CrossFit a little bit unique, most people think of it as like this is an exercise program, like P90X or, Zumba or something like that. But CrossFit has a nutritional basis. I mean, that's one of the key focus items that we have. Talk a little bit about what CrossFit's nutritional philosophy is.
Yeah, so ultimately CrossFit puts nutrition as the foundation of everything else. Coach Glassman, the founder, he had this theoretical hierarchy for the development of an athlete. It's a pyramid, and sports at the top. And to be able to apply yourself in sport, you need to be able to move your body plus other stuff, weightlifting and throwing. You need to be able to move your body through gymnastics. You need to be able to have the metabolic conditioning to move through life's demands. But the most important thing, the base of all of that, is you need to fuel yourself with things that are going to be healthy for you. The nutritional aspect of it is foundational. And the most simple way that CrossFit put nutrition out there is these two sentences. Eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. At the same time, keep intake to levels that support your exercise, not your body fat. When you take that and you break it down, really it's eat real food. Eat real unprocessed. We live in a world of highly processed foods that have little to no nutritional value in them. Mm-hmm. If you can eat real food, if you can eat them, even if you don't care about quantity and you just eat meats and vegetables and fruits and nuts and seeds, you're going to move away from a lot of the health issues with chronic obesity and diabetes. You're gonna really put a hedge against yourself in a lot of those conditions. Now, if you're doing CrossFit and you want to move to the fittest you can be, tracking how much you're eating with a scale. Maybe you do the zone diet, which gives a breakdown of how much to eat per meal. Maybe you track your macros. Maybe you want to try a fasting approach. There's a lot of ways that you can track, but you're not going to get true data the same way we track how much we lift in the gym or how fast our times are until you really buckle down and say, well, let me see how much I'm eating throughout the day and what are the results I'm getting. Yep. You can kind of be your own laboratory with that. And but it starts with changing the foods you eat, of just the real food.
Yeah, even simple changes make a huge difference for people. So let's talk a little bit about programming. So you mentioned earlier the bubble, okay, of the things that you're capable of doing. So in programming, when we're designing the workout of the day, you want to make sure that you're kind of stretching that in different areas. Talk about how that programming does that.
Yeah. So there's definitely common themes that lay out regularly. So you're going to see in CrossFit most workouts are 15 minutes or less, and it's because of that intensity piece. We want, intensity drives results. You're also going to see more often workouts that have 2 or 3 movements in them, because again, they're not super complicated and they allow you to kind of push the gas pedal. We see full body movements. So again, ones that are upper and lower body together. We see very few single muscle group movements. And we also really like this concept of complementary schemes. So when we have one movement that is going to work on maybe upper body pushing and another movement that is going to be pulling based, the movement functions don't interfere, and it allows you again to kind of keep the pace up, keep pushing pretty hard. So all of those things, most of our workouts are about driving intensity in the workout. Now, aside from that, if I only did things in one area though, then I kind of know where those failure points are. I gotta sprinkle in other stuff. And the easiest way I think I kind of do it is if you take a 2-week period of time, you put a workout on there, and you're like, okay, this workout has these things, and now you put another workout here, and the more workouts you put on, you start to see, what have we not done? Oh, we didn't pick up anything heavy. Okay, let me put something heavy in here. hey, we never went long. Oh, okay, let's try to put something long in here. And so I'm kind of always looking at that and thinking, well, what haven't we done? And how can I put that thing to lay in next? It doesn't need to be that complicated as long as I keep looking at what I've done in the past to be able to help tell me what do we need to do going forward. And we're always mixing that up. And again, I say it's not random because it's not like I'm drawing stuff out of a hat. I'm specifically looking at the things that we've done to think, how can I target something that's a little bit different or going to challenge the athletes that are in the gym in a different way?
Yeah. And so you might have, maybe in the course of a week, maybe you have snatches. You have snatches twice, okay? But maybe the first time you do snatches at a lighter weight and higher reps, and then later in the week you might do lower reps and a heavier weight.
Yeah, I think we can agree that like doing the same movement with different loading is really different. And I'll even make a more broad example. If you told somebody to run a 100-meter dash and then a few days later you told them to run a 5K, those are completely different. Like you wouldn't even call those the same, like even though they're both running,
yeah,
it's clearly not the same kind of effort, and they're going to get a completely different result from doing those two types of efforts.
Yeah, you're even using different muscle groups and everything, you know. So, what are some other ways that we can vary that as far as the programming?
Well, we can vary kind of the styles of workouts. So sometimes we do task priority where we're doing, hey, you're going to do 5 rounds, 10 movements, or not 10 movements, 10 reps at each movement, and like how fast can you get done with those 5 rounds? You know, traditionally we do a lot of those, and those are kind of nice because the end is in sight, so those will push you to like keep the pace up to get done. We'll also then throw in workouts where it's an AMRAP, so maybe we have 8 minutes and we're going to do as many rounds as we can. And so when you change up kind of the priority of the workout, some people are going to gravitate much more to like doing something for time, some people this way. And so that's another way that we can just kind of vary up, you know, how things are programmed. We want to push people, again, we want to push people to go long. We want to push them to go short. We want to push them heavy. We want to push them light. And there's really any number of tools that we can use to do that.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that the average workout typically is like 12 to 15 minutes, something like that. So, but our classes are an hour long. So what's happening in the rest of that hour if you're only working out for 12 minutes?
Yeah, that's a great point. So in order to get good at this stuff, we have to practice them. We have to practice things. CrossFit does not shy away from highly skilled movements. We push people to walk on their hands. We push people to do ring gymnastics. You know, we do the barbell snatch, which inherently is, you know, a very challenging barbell movement from a coordination standpoint. So when you come to a class, there's going to be some general warm-up in the group setting to get the heart rate up. And then there's going to be a large piece of coaching and teaching through what we call a specific warm-up. In order to be able to do highly skilled movements, we need to take people through progressions that let them work on foundational skills and try to build those foundational skills to teach these complex movements. And then ultimately we also have to, some of them increase load, increase speed, and build competency there. That will not happen if you just say 3, 2, 1, go, start this workout. What will happen if you do that is the people who are naturally very athletic will pick those things up, and then the majority of people who don't fall into that camp, who are just average folk, they're going to always be stuck at the most rudimentary version, and they're not going to progress to truly get the higher levels of fitness that they can achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So we go all that, and then we'll cool down afterwards. So probably 40 minutes of that class is designed to get you ready to do the high intensity piece.
Right. And now and that goes for beginners or advanced. I mean, like in our gym here, if you come in on day one and if the snatches are part of the thing, you're going to learn how to snatch.
That's right. That's right. And let's be clear that as a coach, my job is to take the new person and guide them for, hey, what's the thing that can take them, let's use like letter grades for a second. Somebody comes in brand new, maybe they're a D minus on their movement. How do I get them to like a C minus? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I might have somebody who's been doing this for 10 years. Maybe they're an A minus mover. Well, how do I get them from an A minus to be an A plus? What's going to push them? That might look different, but I'm balancing both of those things in the same class. I'm trying to push the high level athletes to go faster and heavier. I'm trying to push the new athletes to just build general competency in the movement at hand.
Yeah. So I think we've covered most of the points that I wanted to go over. Is there anything that I forgot to ask you about, or anything extra that we would typically see in What is CrossFit?
I think that generally covers the What is CrossFit. I think if any of this stuff kind of piqued interest, I will give a quick shout out. The reason I'm so passionate about this stuff is because, like you said, I do help teach on those courses, and a lot of this stuff is kind of verbatim right from CrossFit's Level 1 manual and guide, which has a wealth of information and knowledge to, for anybody looking to learn more about CrossFit. So I would encourage people to go check that stuff out and deepen their own understanding if this stuff kind of piqued your interest.
Yeah, and in particular, if you are interested in learning more about this, we do have a Level 1 coming up here at Bombers in December, and you can go to CrossFit.com and search for that site and register for that if you're interested, or talk to one of the coaches.
And that's a course, it's put on by CrossFit. They send out trainers, which I'm one of those people that does that. And it's 2 days full immersive of digging into CrossFit, digging into those 9 foundational movements, practicing your movement, and then leaving with hopefully a much better and deeper understanding of what CrossFit is, how it's applied, and then ultimately, like, it's a really fun weekend, and I'd say that for myself personally, changed the course of my life when I took that back in 2012.
Greg, thanks for helping us understand a little bit better about CrossFit.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.